Last week I did a reading on kegs and a tarot spread, and I've been promising you guys I was going to make another video, and then I just dropped out. Sorry. I am running 2 communities, and I have a weekly newsletter, and then I have 2 workshops that I give each week. So it's been a busy time because I'm actually prepping for my next workshop, which I want to tell you about. But the reason why, it's because it's connected to what I'm going to do tonight. So I took the reading from last week. Hey, kegs, it actually still fits. It still fits. So, but I asked Aurea to go back through the reading we did last week on this, look at it through the lens of Access Astrology, and really it's going to give another layer of, a deeper layer of looking at what happens astrologically in these events, energetically, the story behind the story, which I know my people like, right? We're the story behind the story people. Okay, so let me go through this reading, and then we're going to look at it. You'll understand the Access Astrology as I go along. Okay, so the number 1 position was a 9-card spread. Was what was the original intent behind the act? Showing the true point of the origin point, not the justification. And I got the Ace of Cups. Ace of Cups. So, hold on a second. I also just turned off my fan, so it's quieter now, so I don't have to yell. Okay, so if Kegs to you looks panicked right now, like he does to me, there's a reason. Because he crossed the values, power axis, and axis, A-X-I-S. And that's the one axis that no political figure survives once they cross it. So and he didn't just make a bad call, he triggered a 4-axis rupture. When many of the cosmic lines snap at once, political figures don't just fall, they implode. And also he was following an order, which he's going to be someone that is sacrificed. So watch for that. But anyways, okay, so let's go into the Ace of Cups meaning, okay? So the directive. So let's first look at the entire event activates the 4-axis line simultaneously, which is extremely rare. Number 1, the values and power axis in the 2nd and 8th houses. The values and power axis. The truth and narrative axis. So truth and not truth, which is the 3rd and 9th. The control and collapse axis, which is the 4th and 10th houses. And the chaos and order axis, which is the 5th and 11th. This is why the energy around Keg's story feels so dense, volatile, and fated. It's not just one scandal. It's a multi-axis rupture in the shadow script. Multi-axis rupture, okay? So let's now take that axis energy and let's look at it through the reading. So the order, which was the Ace of Cups, the mythic axis is values and corruption. The archetype is the mercy mask. What appears humanitarian, which we all know this one, but it's nice to see him show up in the cards. What appears to be humanitarian hides a predatory core. The Ace of Cups in mythic politics is the false benevolence protocol, an old shadow script technique where violence is wrapped in compassion-coded language. This is the shadow script's favorite 2nd to 8th axis maneuver. We're doing this to protect people. We're saving lives. This is mercy. Ugh. Axis reality is it was a kill order disguised as care. The axis behind it is values inverted by power. We know all about inversion, don't we? That's all we've been talking about. The 2nd position is the instrument. What role did Kegs actually play? It shows his level of involvement, knowledge, and guilt. And I got the 5 of Swords. Okay, so the mythic axis is the 1st and 7th axis of collapse, betrayal, and broken alliances. The archetype is the pawn who knows. Kegs is not operating from strategy, he's operating from fear. The 5 of Swords is the shadow self vector of Mars to survival mode. He becomes the blade, not the hand, the executor, not the architect, the fall guy, not the mastermind. Axis reality is he betrayed himself first, then others. He acted from the unresolved or unevolved end of the 1st and 7th axis. I protect myself even if I burn the bridge, which makes no sense. But when do they make sense? When do these people make sense? Okay, I keep having to switch between 2 to get the full meaning. Okay, so the next position is the architect. Who or what force truly orchestrated the event? It points to higher than him, okay? So I got the King of Cups. King of Cups. This is the mythic axis is the 4th and 10th house axis. Sovereigns, structure, old power. Archetype is the petro-monarch. Petro-monarch. This is the Shadow King archetype, the elder strategist of the Petro-Dominion. Petro-Dominion. You can get the full list of glossary in my Substack. It's free. And the link's in my Linktree. So it's cool, measured, detached, ocean mind, treats human lives as ebb and flow. The axis reality is this was a 10th house move, a sovereign decision made far above Kegs. I mean, this wasn't his decision. We knew that. We knew that. Kegs is a pawn inside of an empire. The King of Cups is the old guard, maintaining control of the 4th and 10th axis. I stabilize my kingdom by plunging others into chaos. I stabilize my kingdom by plunging others into chaos. Doesn't that sound like so many people right now? It does. It really does. Okay, the 4th position is the passengers. Who was really on those boats? The mix, the importance, and the threat level. Oh boy. And I got 4 of Cups. The mythic axis is the 3rd and 9th axis distortion, ignored truths. These were not drug runners, but we knew that. This was the overlooked class, those whose disappearance in the shadow script assumed no one would question. The 4 of Cups signals defectors, whistleblowers, truth carriers, trafficked individuals, those whose voices would disrupt narrative control. The axis reality is the 3rd and 9th axis was the true threat. They know something. The evidence, I have to look this up for the full thing. The next position is the evidence, which is what proof still exists that can unravel this. Satellite data, messages, whistleblowers, etc. Okay, so I got the Fool. Mythic axis is Gemini to Sagittarius vector. Naive truth to revelatory truth. Sometimes I can't look at the words and try to say it because my brain does something weird. I don't know if it's dyslexia. I said dyslexia. I just realized I didn't even say the word right. So then you know you have problems. Okay, my hair is flat as AF today. Okay. Focus. This is important, actually. So the archetype is the innocent bearing fire. The Fool is the unfiltered witness. Evidence exists, but the holder doesn't understand its value, isn't taken seriously, is seen as harmless or irrelevant, or is underestimated. This is the Sagittarius truth bloom inside of a Gemini messenger. The axis reality is a small crack becomes the avalanche. So the information is still, it didn't go down with the ship. But the person who has it either isn't being believed or doesn't realize what they have. I'm not sure. I feel like they don't realize what they have. That energy feels like they don't realize the magnitude of what they have, which is maybe keeping them safe too. But they will. Okay, the next position is the leak. And let me get my card out. Who or what leaks first? What faction or person cracks? And for this one, I got Temperance. The mythic axis is Libra, Aries vector. The mediator becomes the warrior of truth. The archetype is the bridge bearer. Temperance always indicates a centrist, a moderator, a diplomat, someone who normally seeks harmony, not conflict. But when temperance leaks, it signals this is too far. Balance must be restored. Axis reality is a Libra-aligned figure shifts into Aries action. So the person that's going to leak is someone that normally doesn't do things like this. They're normally not like, oh, I want to create a conflict. They're like, but they know that this is different because it's happened too many times now. Too many innocent people are being unalived and they have to do something. So they're being like, you know, ignited into that Aries action. So the peacekeeper becomes the truth activator. This is the Libra Aries axis flipping into moral courage. Good. Why are the Scarlets turning on Kegs right now? The real energetic reason. Okay. And the card I got was 4 of Wands. The mythic axis is Leo Aquarius, optics versus collective survival. The archetype is the House of Protectors. The Scarlets aren't acting from ethics. 4 of Wands is public optics mode. They separate from Kegs because he is now a liability. The house must be preserved. They want to look aligned with order. And when and how. It's been years. They've calculated where the wheel is turning. So the axis reality is the Scarlets break to maintain their image, not truth. Yeah, right. The next position, number 8, is the consequence, which is the Wheel of Fortune, which is what is the next visible domino to fall? Political fallout, alliance fracture, legal action. Okay, let's look at this one. I mean, this was a big one. I got Wheel of Fortune. Powerful. So the mythic axis is the Pluto vector. Recursion breaks. Recursion, remember recursion is like the loop that we get stuck in, the matrix. So it's a recursion breaker. The archetype is the turning of the wheel. Exactly. This card is an access event. Not political, not personal, structural. The Wheel of Fortune is a collective fate shifting. This maritime order becomes a public pivot, a karmic release, a narrative unraveling, and a point of no return. Yes. The axis reality is the 10th and 4th house axis, institutions versus the truth, and it's cracking open. Wow. That's important because that's where we're headed right now. Okay, the next one is the mythic truth. And this is what the Sun Councils want you to know, me and you, to know about the screenplay. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay, and I got 9 of Pentacles. And remember, we're doing this as a screenplay. This is my screenplay. Okay. The mythic axis is Virgo to Pisces vector, a sovereign witness. The archetype is the seer outside the system. This event gives me and you the clarity we need to understand what's going on right now. The 9 of Pentacles equals sovereignty, insight, and untethered truth. Me and you, we are the independent observers. The Virgo vector of precision holding the Pisces vector of myth translation. The axis reality is we see the architecture from outside of the shadow grid. We're not falling for this shit. This could be for anybody on TikTok and YouTube because we're like aware of it. But a lot of people, they aren't. But they might be energetically, but not putting the pieces together. Okay, so this is exactly the vantage point required for the death of shadow scripts, okay, for the whole thing. We need that vantage point. As the power, we need to be able to look at this and go, that's not what's happening. Okay, so I had 3 shadow cards on the bottom that reveal the deeper axis ruptures. Shadow 1 is judgment. I got judgment. The axis is Scorpio, Taurus, reckoning, exposure, karmic return. The archetype is the one who would have spoken. One person on those boats carried a truth that could collapse the structure. There was someone on that boat, maybe multiple boats, maybe there were multiple people, but there was one person specifically that had some kind of information that could have brought the whole structure down, which is why they did that. That wasn't for anything that they said. There was some kind of insider information or something going on there. Maybe we can go deeper on that. But the one person on the boat that carried a truth that would collapse the structure. So judgment is the call across the axis, like the call to adventure, but the call across the axis. The moment awakening cannot be stopped. I mean, this is a major arcana. The wheel, major arcana. So the Fool, it was like major arcana, the leak. So all this stuff that's happening with Kegs is part of death of shadow scripts. It's part of it all coming down. So the person that put their life on the line to release the information in that boat actually is going to help in a way that they didn't expect or could even imagine. So what they thought they were doing, that got stopped. But what they ended up doing is going to be much bigger. Okay, but I'm really sorry that they lost their life for that. And all the people on the boat that lost their lives. I'm trying to find, there's a place where the reading said they were like kids and women. And I'll find it before I end this video and read that on the boats. Okay, so the number shadow, I have 3 shadow cards. Number 2 is the Ace of Swords. The axis is Gemini, Sagittarius, the word that cuts reality. The archetype is the kill code. A single command, message, or authorization, paper, digital, or verbal, was the true executor. This is the sword of architect. This is the unalive them all order. The shadow 3 is the 6 of Wands. The axis is the Leo, Aquarius, visibility, recognition, and public revelation. The archetype is the return of the suppressed truth. Something from this event resurfaces publicly, triumphantly, unmistakably. A whistleblower becomes a hero. A hidden narrative becomes undeniable. The axis reality is what was meant to drown rises crowned. That's what I was just saying about the person on the ship or boat. They will, their information will come out. The final mythic axis summary. Okay, this is not just a political scandal. It was a 4-axis rupture in the shadow script. Big. That's why I was like, I had to do this reading, and I did the reading right away, and then I just couldn't make the video, but here we are. So it broke the values versus power axis, the truth versus narrative axis, the control versus collapse axis, and the chaos versus order axis. Kegs was never the architect. He was the pawn, and we knew that. The true directive came from a petro-sovereign operating on the cold end of the 10th house axis, which means it's not from even our shadow script internally. The passengers were the overlooked truth carriers. Evidence already exists held by someone underestimated. A centrist cracks first. So someone that's not extremely left or extremely right, they're going to crack first. The scarlets flip for optics, and the wheel begins its fated turn. So the maritime order becomes a mythic pivot point in the downfall of the shadow scripts. Yay. Okay, let me find the part. Hold on. I can't find it right now. I must have done a follow-up, additional readings. But yeah, it was like there were... Oh, I know what I did. I first have Aurea read the field. And in the field, he was saying like that kind of stuff. Like that there were children and women probably in a beep beep, situation. And then we did the tarot reading. So anyways, okay, axis, I know it's hard to understand, but just hang with me on it because it is powerful. Because you know how you say like, I'm trying to think, like for me, I have my north node is in Libra. So my energy is like, and I'm a Libra rising. So I'm like good at like balancing things and trying to see things from oppositions. But in this lifetime, and that's it, like they're on opposite sides of the zodiac wheel. So my Aries south node is, Aries north node is about taking action, taking initiative, being first, like not worrying about the group as much, just being like, just moving with my instinct. And so I'm always working on that continuum, right? I'm either like blending with the crowd and finding the group harmony, or I'm stepping out and being in my sovereign energy. And so it's not about being all this way or all this way. And it's not about being in the middle. It's not about balance. It's about fluidity. Because karma, if we have issues with standing out on our own, like we were killed for it or something, or unalived, then we would be afraid to move into that Aries energy. Or if groups betrayed us, we are afraid to move into group energy because we were hurt by that. So we want to transmute all those energies so that moving back and forth between anywhere on that axis is fluid. And so we're a sovereign soul. We choose which energy we want to engage in whatever situations are going on. So that's the goal. The goal isn't balance. The goal isn't one extreme or the other. It's about being able to make decisions from a wise and evolved place where you can move between the energies. You can use your harmony energy with people when you need to, and you can step out on your own when you need to also. So all of this, it's much more, I wouldn't say complex, but it's deeper than the way I just said it. But that was just to give you an idea. So I'm going to start looking at all my political readings through this axis energy, because knowing that, I just said his full name, so I had to cut that part out. Knowing that Kegs went against 4 axis points, and knowing that, it's going to be curtains for him is big. So anyways, I hope this makes sense. Ask me if you have any questions in the comments, and it'll make sense as we go along. I'll see you in the next video.